So after you've selected your topic and written the first version of your script, it's time to start thinking about adding media elements. And for most people, this starts with still images. Now, everybody knows how to find images to use in a digital story, but the real question is, what do you have permission to use for your digital story? So on our Educational Uses of Digital Storytelling website under Educational Materials, we have a section called Copyright and Educational Fair Use. And I encourage you to go here and read this information. And there are links to other more detailed websites that provide a lot of information. This is a very complex topic and a serious one. And the real issue for us to consider is that what's appropriate in one location may not be the same in another. So in one country, in the United States, for example, it may be proper and okay for students to download images from the web and use them in digital stories under the concept of educational fair use, but that may not be the same in other countries. And where you are, it might even vary not so much just from country to country, but also from state to state or from city to city. Or if you're working in a school, that institution might have one policy, whereas another school may have a different policy. So what we're going to explore are some ways to use images that do not violate anyone's copyright or intellectual property rights. So the easiest way to do this is to use pictures and photographs and documents that you own. And so let me show you an example. This is a photograph of my grandfather here in the middle and my father when he was a little boy. He was 5 years old when this photograph was taken. And this is an old family photograph that is in my house, and I took it out of a frame and I scanned it using an inexpensive graphics scanner. And then I wrote a script about this particular photograph and created a digital story from it. And that does not violate anyone's copyright because it's a family photograph. So that's a good option for you if you happen to have a shoebox full of old family photographs and you might want to put together a digital story similar to the one that I did called Robin's Market. Another thing that just about everybody has the capability of doing is taking their own pictures. So for example, I like to take photographs of nature items and elements, and in my backyard I have found lizards and dragonflies and butterflies and birds of all assorted types, and so when you take your own pictures, then you don't violate anyone's copyright. And you can see that in my particular case, I could write a script about all of the different animals and insects and flowers that grow and live in my backyard, and I think that would be a pretty interesting digital story. And you could do something similar, not just for insects and butterflies and birds, but whatever you want to take pictures of, because you're taking the picture, you would own the copyright and the intellectual property. So that's a really good strategy for finding images for your own digital story. And then, of course, because Google and other search engines like Google have indexed so many images on the web, you can find pictures on just about any topic. And so if you're going to do that, then we suggest that you try to select topics where you can find images that are either copyright free or in the what's called in the public domain. They're out of copyright because they're older or because sometimes they've been donated for everyone to use. And we're going to go into more detail about Creative Commons licenses and public domain. But the thing to remember at first is if you're going to go to a search engine like Google, you can go to google.com/images and go to their image search page. And if we type in Eiffel Tower and hit return, we'll see that there are lots of images of the Eiffel Tower. And let's say I wanted to write a script about architecture or famous landmarks I could use something like this, but I also notice in Google Image Search I have some tabs, and if I click on Search Tools, one of the tabs underneath that is called Usage Rights. And what I can do here is click on that, and you'll see that by default there's a check mark called by not filtered by license, which means that every image that Google could find on the Eiffel Tower it indexed, but it would be better for us to use one of these other options labeled for non-commercial reuse with modification. So let's think about what this means. This is a good one for us. It's labeled for non-commercial. That's us. We're using this not for profit. We're not going to sell anything. And we're reusing this image, and we want with modification, so that allows us to alter the image if we decide that that's necessary. We might want to crop it or add an effect or put text over it. So that's a good choice for us. And if we click on that, we see that we find still many images of the Eiffel Tower that might be useful for us. And if we scroll over this one in particular, we see that it has a good high resolution, number of pixels, 1488 by 2000. That's a reasonably sized picture, a very good sized picture, and would not appear blurred or pixelated in our digital story when we put it together. So this would be a good one. I'll come over here and click on View Image. And before I do, I notice that this says commons.wikimedia.org, and that means that this is a Creative Commons licensed image. And so if I want to save this, I can see that it's a really big image because it has this little plus sign. I'm on a PC, so I would just here right click and say Save Image As, and then I could use this image without any worry because it is licensed for reuse by people like us. So these are some strategies for how you can find appropriate images on Google, use digital camera photos that you've taken yourself, use a scanner to scan older or even more current photographs or documents that you have the ownership of. And these are good strategies for you to use when you're trying to create your digital story.